For real, you ever ask yourself why Moses and Jesus are in both the Old and New Testaments? In other words, someone tried to change time by putting the future in the past. But thanks to God and the Ethiopian original tongues, also known as the Book of Testament, we were able to decipher. So let's read. Make haste, O God, to deliver me. Help me, O Lord. Let them be ashamed and confounded that seek after my soul. Let them be turned backward and put to confusion. In other words, they try to change the words. So let's see what it says. Lord also is Israel's portion. In other words, Lord God named himself Israel. And he made the world when Adam transgressed his statutes. So then were the entrances of the world made narrow, for the entrances of the elder world were wide and sure. For they lived and labored not to enter these straits and vain things. They could never receive. O Lord, the righteous should inherit these, but the ungodly shall perish. There is no judge above God, and none that have understanding above the highest. For God hath given the commandment what they should do to live, and what they should observe to avoid punishment. So he will let you know that his son, Jesus, shall be revealed within those that be with him. And the Most High shall appear upon the seat of judgment, and misery shall pass away, and the long suffering shall have an end. In other words, Jesus is supposed to be here at the end of times. There you will find Abraham, Moses, and Jesus together. So who is Abraham? Abraham is God himself. Abraham fathered of many peoples. He kept glory without stain. He observed the precepts of the Most High in his own flesh. In other words, Abraham is God himself. And he renewed the same promise with Isaac. Therefore, Jacob is acknowledged by God as the firstborn. And from Jacob sprang Moses, who won favor of all, dear to God and men. In other words, Moses is Christ. He is the one who's born on Ethiopian Christmas Day. And who's together with Moses? Jesus, the son of Nav. In another Bible, it would say Jesus, the son of Nun, is a successor to Moses, according to his name, was made great for the saving of the elect of God. So he was together with the mighty one. So he fought in the sight of the Lord, and he followed the mighty one. In other words, the mighty one of Israel. So the mighty one of Israel is literally looking at him. In the time of Moses, he did a work of mercy. In other words, Jesus is the son of Abraham, the son of David. In other words, we are all sons and daughters of the Most High. Therefore, we are all sons of God. But his father, his daddy name is David. So in other words, they go from Abraham to David to Jesus. So let's watch what they're saying.
Not be tempted by evil. We agree?
Absolutely.
Is Satan not be God cannot be tempted by evil. We agree?
Absolutely.
Is Satan evil? Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Now go to Matthew 4. Remember, God cannot be tempted by evil. We agree Satan is evil, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Matthew 4 says, Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil.
In other words, Jesus is the grandson of God. He's not God himself. And Jesus is not born on Christmas Day. Therefore, he's not Christ.
Hey, let's analyze these claims.
Micah 5:2, Bethlehem, you are the small among the clans of Judah. One will come from you to be ruler over Israel for me.
Three
Right
problems
there.
with this being a problem.
4 things. For one, Jesus is the son of Joseph, and Joseph is a brother to Judah. Therefore, Judah is the uncle of Jesus. So off the bat, they're lying and saying that Jesus is from the tribe of Judah. No.
Prophecy about Jesus. First, this is a prophecy made during the Assyrian Empire, and it's clearly about that period. If you go down just a few verses, the context is clear. If the Assyrians come into our land, ergo, Jesus arrives 700 years too late to fulfill this prophecy. Number 2, the prophecy says someone shall come from Bethlehem that shall rule in Israel. Don't know if you noticed, but Jesus never ruled in Israel. Number 3, there's no good reason to think that Jesus was born in Bethlehem.
None at all. They want you to think a white Jesus was speaking a Babylonian language called Aramaic, because Aramaic is like the sister language to Hebrew. So in other words, the heathens are working together to change the story.
Messiah. What's the meaning of a Messiah?
The anointed one.
Al-Masih, the anointed one.
Yes.
What's the meaning of that? It's an inferior God
No, anointed means chosen to do a specific task.
chosen to do a specific task. Okay,
Yeah.
now let me take it.
Now, who was chosen to do a specific task? It is in Psalm 89, and it makes it clear as day who God chose till time indefinite. In other words, he will never change who he chose. So all you gotta do is go to Psalm 89, and it will tell you straight. I have found David my servant, with my holy oil I have anointed him. I will set his hand in the sea and his right hand in the rivers. He shall cry unto me, Thou art my Father, my God, and the rock of my salvation. Don't forget, Jesus is the son of David. David goes by the name of Moses. And God also has the name of David. So he shall cry unto me, Thou art my Father, my God, and the rock of salvation. And I will make him my firstborn. In other words, God himself is firstborn. Who also is firstborn? Jacob, God acknowledged him as the firstborn. In other words, David is one of God's many names. And who is the man of God? None other than Christ. So who will Christ be? Moses, a prayer of Moses, the man of God. So follow Jah, not man. And don't forget, Jesus is Joshua. The name Jesus is Yeshua, Jeshua, Yahashua. So Jesus is Joshua. Follow God. And we all know that Joshua is together with Moses in the time of Exodus. Just like Jesus is together with Moses in Matthew. So as you can see, Matthew, it lets you know that he's the son of David. Also in Matthew, and look, there appeared to them Moses and Elijah conversing with him. Respectively, Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it is fine for us to be here. If you wish, I will erect 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. In other words, Jesus is together with Moses in both the Old and New Testament. Follow Jah.
Over everything already, over Kista and Tsunami, over faith and destiny. And you just got on it, what I bring, it's all them.